There's a moment, and if you've lived long enough, you've felt it, where everything that was supposed to hold together simply doesn't. You've prepared, you've rehearsed, you've walked through the scenario in your mind 100 times, maybe 1,000. You know exactly what you're supposed to say, exactly how you're supposed to move, exactly who you're supposed to be in that moment. And then the moment arrives. The lights come on, or the room goes quiet, or the phone rings with the call you've been dreading, or someone looks at you and waits for your answer. And something in your mind, something deep and ancient and completely indifferent to your preparation, pulls a lever you didn't know existed. And suddenly, you're not yourself anymore. Suddenly the words you rehearsed are gone. The confidence you felt 20 minutes ago has evaporated like morning fog. Your hands are doing something strange. Your voice sounds like it belongs to someone else. And in the back of your head, behind all the noise and the panic and the desperate scrambling for footing, there is this one quiet, terrible question. Why is this happening to me? This video is about that question. Not the surface version of it, not the version that gets answered with just breathe or fake it till you make it, but the real version. The version that lives in the biology of your nervous system, in the architecture of your ancient brain, in the gap between the person you are when you're alone and the person who shows up when the stakes are high. Because the truth is, your mind doesn't betray you out of weakness. It doesn't betray you because you're broken or because you're not cut out for the things you want. It betrays you because it is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And that design, brilliant and life-saving in one context, can become your single greatest obstacle in another. Understanding this, truly understanding it, not just intellectually, but in your bones, changes everything.
Let's start somewhere real. Let's start with a young woman named Priya. She was 26 years old and had spent the better part of 3 years preparing for the most important presentation of her professional career. She was a structural engineer at a mid-sized firm in London, and she had been selected out of 43 candidates to present her team's bridge design proposal to a panel of investors and city planners who had the authority to greenlight a project worth over £200 million. She had earned this. She had worked 17-hour days for months. She had run simulations, peer-reviewed her own calculations, rehearsed her presentation in front of mirrors and colleagues, and her patient, long-suffering boyfriend, who had listened to her opening paragraph so many times he could deliver it himself in his sleep. The morning of the presentation, Priya woke up calm. That in itself felt like a good sign. She ate breakfast. She reviewed her notes. She took the tube into the city, listening to the same playlist she always used when she needed to feel grounded. And by the time she stepped into the lobby of the Canary Wharf building where the panel was being held, she felt something close to readiness. Not certainty. She was too smart for certainty, but readiness. A kind of steady, quiet confidence that she had done everything she could and that it would be enough. She remembers the elevator ride up. She remembers the soft chime of the doors opening on the 23rd floor. She remembers the way the receptionist smiled at her and said, "They're ready for you." And she remembers with absolute crystalline precision the exact moment she walked through the door and saw the room. 12 people. Not the 6 she had been told to expect. 12. Seated at a long glass table, all of them already watching her as she entered, their faces carrying that particular blend of professional neutrality and quiet assessment that powerful people seem to cultivate as naturally as breathing. Her notes were in her hand. Her slides were already loaded on the screen behind her. Everything was in order. Everything was prepared. And then her mind, without warning and without permission, simply went somewhere else. She described it to me later, and she described it the same way that dozens of people I've spoken to over the years have described that same experience as a kind of white noise. Not panic exactly, not fear in the screaming, visceral sense, just interference, like a radio signal being jammed. She opened her mouth, and the first sentence came out slightly wrong, and the wrongness of it registered in her body before her brain had a chance to course correct, and then she was aware of having made an error, which made her more aware of the room, which made her more aware of herself, which made the interference louder, which made the next sentence worse, and within 90 seconds of walking through that door, Priya, brilliant, prepared, deeply competent Priya, was standing in front of 12 people watching her visibly unravel. She got through it. She finished the presentation. It wasn't catastrophic in the way she feared it would be. The proposal was strong enough that it survived her delivery. But she left that room feeling something she couldn't quite name for weeks afterward. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was something more disorienting than that. It was the feeling of having been ambushed by herself, of having been present for her own betrayal, watching it happen from somewhere just behind her eyes, completely unable to stop it. If you have ever felt that, and I suspect you have in some version of it, then what I'm about to tell you is something you have needed to hear for a long time.
Your brain is not one thing. This seems like a simple statement, maybe even an obvious one, but its implications are so profound and so far-reaching that most of us spend our entire lives acting as though it isn't true. We walk around with this assumption that we are unified creatures, that the I who makes decisions and the I who feels things and the I who performs under pressure are all the same person, operating from the same place, pulling toward the same direction. But neuroscience has been dismantling that assumption for decades, and what it's revealed underneath is something simultaneously humbling and, once you truly absorb it, deeply freeing. Your brain has, in very rough terms, multiple overlapping systems that developed at different points in evolutionary history and that operate according to very different rules. The system that handles your higher reasoning, your planning, your language, your ability to rehearse a presentation and anticipate questions and construct logical arguments is relatively recent in evolutionary terms. It lives primarily in the prefrontal cortex, that thick fold of tissue just behind your forehead, and it is extraordinarily powerful. It is the thing that makes you human in the most recognizable sense. It is capable of abstract thought, of imagining futures that don't yet exist, of learning from written language and building complex social structures and creating art. It is, in many ways, the crowning achievement of biological evolution on this planet. But it is not in charge. Buried deeper in your brain, beneath all that magnificent modern architecture, is something far older. The amygdala, two small almond-shaped structures sitting roughly in the center of your brain, operates on a completely different timescale and according to completely different priorities. It doesn't care about your presentation. It doesn't care about the £200 million contract or the career you've been building, or the 3 years of preparation you've invested. The amygdala cares about one thing, and it has cared about that one
same thing for hundreds of millions of years. Survival, threat detection, the relentless, tireless, never off-duty assessment of whether the environment you are currently in is safe or dangerous, and the preparation of your body to respond accordingly. And here is where it gets extraordinary, and where everything about Priya's experience and your experience begins to make a kind of terrible sense. The amygdala processes information faster than conscious thought, not a little faster, dramatically faster. By the time your prefrontal cortex has registered that you've walked into a room, assessed its contents, recognized the people, and begun forming a coherent response, your amygdala has already run its own scan, crude, fast, pattern-matched against everything you've ever associated with threat, and in some cases, it has already begun preparing your body for either fight, flight, or freeze. The stress hormones are already in motion. The physiological cascade is already underway. Your conscious mind is still walking through the door, and your ancient survival brain has already decided that something in this room deserves a threat response. This is not a personal failing. This is not weakness. This is your biology doing what billions of years of natural selection designed it to do. The problem is simply that the world it was designed for and the world you are living in are separated by a chasm of about 10,000 years of civilization, and evolution has not yet had time to close that gap.
But here is where the story deepens, because the amygdala and the stress response are only part of what's happening when your mind betrays you under pressure. There's another layer to this, one that is more psychological than neurological, and in some ways even more insidious, because it operates not in the fractions of a second before conscious thought, but in the weeks and months and years before the moment of pressure ever arrives. Psychologists call it the self-concept threat, and its mechanics are both elegant and devastating. Every human being carries within them a model of who they are, not just a list of facts, name, occupation, age, but a living, dynamic story of what kind of person they are, what they're capable of, what their value is, and crucially, what the gap is between who they are now and who they need to be. This self-concept is not fixed. It shifts with experience, with feedback, with success and failure, with the opinions of people we love and people we fear, and it is extraordinarily sensitive to threat. When you walk into a high-stakes situation, you are not just performing a task, you are also, whether you are aware of it or not, defending a story. You are not just trying to deliver a good presentation, you are trying to protect the identity of someone who is capable of delivering a good presentation. You are not just trying to answer a question correctly, you are trying to preserve the narrative of someone who knows things, who is competent, who deserves to be in the room. And the moment that narrative feels threatened, the moment you stumble or see skepticism on a face or hear your own voice doing something unexpected, the part of your mind devoted to protecting that story lights up with the same urgency as the part devoted to protecting your body. This is why one wrong word can derail an entire performance. Not because one wrong word is objectively catastrophic, but because one wrong word is a data point that your self-concept immediately begins interpreting as evidence of the story you most fear. The story where you're not good enough, not prepared enough, not worthy of the room. And when that fear activates, it doesn't just sit quietly in the background, it floods the foreground. It begins competing with every other cognitive process for your attention and your resources. Instead of thinking about what you want to say next, you're thinking about how you sounded saying the last thing.
Instead of reading the room with curiosity and adaptability, you're monitoring the room for signs of your failure. Instead of being present in the conversation, you're half a second behind it, perpetually reviewing what just happened, while the thing that matters is continuing to unfold without you. Researchers call it ironic process theory, though you might know its more visceral name. The more you try not to do something, the more likely you are to do it. Daniel Wegner, the psychologist who first formally described it, ran experiments in which he asked people to not think about a white bear. Just that one instruction, whatever you do, don't think about a white bear. And of course, as soon as the instruction was given, the white bear was everywhere. The act of monitoring for the forbidden thought requires you to generate the forbidden thought as a reference point, which means you're constantly thinking about exactly what you're trying not to think about. Now apply this to performance. Tell yourself not to stumble over your words, and you're now generating a model of stumbling over your words in order to know what to avoid. Tell yourself not to look nervous, and you're now conducting a continuous internal scan for signs of nervousness. Tell yourself not to forget what you're supposed to say, and you've now created a parallel mental process specifically devoted to the scenario of forgetting what you're supposed to say. The pressure doesn't just increase the difficulty of the task, it activates a set of mental processes that are architecturally designed to undermine the task. This is the real mechanism of betrayal, not weakness of will, not lack of preparation, a system running exactly as intended in exactly the wrong context.